Coming up on this edition of VCU In-Depth, documentaries from students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture.
We'll start off by taking a look at a Richmond nonprofit, its volunteers, and the impact it's had providing home improvements for low-income families.
And then we explore why Richmond is such a popular destination for millennials to set down roots.
VCU In-Depth begins right now. Good evening and welcome to VCU In-Depth. I'm Devin Eiffel.
And I'm Emily McNamara. Thanks for joining us as we feature documentaries from undergraduate students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture. A local nonprofit is providing a critical service to Virginians in need. With approximately 33,000 people on their waiting list, Project Homes has taken up the mantle of serving these families.
Alongside volunteers, the organization tackles the growing need for home safety repairs. Our first documentary, called Helping Hands, focuses on one of their programs and how they're making a change in the community.
Some of the things that we do seem so small, but yet for the person who needs them, it's monumental.
But when you can give of yourself, it's quite meaningful.
I feel like they were angels sent here by God to come rescue me.
They're so grateful for our help.
I mean, it opens up a whole new way of life for them.
Our mission is to improve lives by improving homes. So we have a series of programs that are catered to either building and creating a wonderful place to live or making your home a better place to live by making repairs and energy improvements. Stability in the home is the most important thing for all of us. It means a lot to have safety and security and health in your home.
As people age, they have certain needs that we try to fulfill, such as wheelchair ramps or grab bars or things related to accessibility. Those are our greatest challenges, trying to address the continuing, growing need that people have for housing repairs as they age, but also as their old homes get even older.
I was given Project Home from a coworker that had some work done. They came out, well, I had first gone on a waiting list. And they, what was needed at that time, I needed a roof repair. Rain was starting to come inside of the house. I also had the front porch railing replaced. They also replaced the front door, the back door, and the screen door for the front. They came and gave me one. It was holding and playing with the baby. They were very nice. I truly appreciate what they've done to come out here to help me. I thank them that day.
We have two components of the Renew crew. We do minor home repairs, and we do accessibility improvements, specifically building and installing wheelchair ramps. We are able, with volunteers, to build the modules, the components here in the warehouse. Then at another time, the same volunteers or other volunteers will transport those modules out to the site, and under our supervision, they will install the wheelchair ramp.
You can only do it on one side.
We have two groups of permanent volunteers who volunteer either weekly or bi-weekly. They do the most of our installs. Most of our builds are done by our corporate sponsors and partners such as Capital One.
And that's why partners like Project Homes that work with us, come out to our campus, allow associates to take an hour and a half out of their busy day to give back feels really great. And once they participate, they want to do more.
We actually get to be a part of going out and installing ramps at people's homes, and at times you get to see people who, might not have had mobility and the ability to leave their house for a while, which is really just so cool to get to see and to be a part of.
And now it's gotten to the point where we don't have to recruit for volunteers, but volunteers know about us and they contact us.
A colleague of mine from work called me one day at home and said he needed help, and I couldn't imagine how he needed my help, and he told me about Project Home, so I've been doing it ever since.
I was watching TV, the news one evening with my wife, and all of a sudden there was a documentary on a project that this Project Homes had been involved in.
I was specifically interested in the work of Project Homes because it's something that we take for granted, such as being able to leave your home, being able to walk around safely and make it back, and just being able to contribute to that and make a world of a difference for someone is definitely something that I wanted to work with.
I think it was maybe the second or third job I went on. When we finished, I met the woman who it was for. And unfortunately, she had had a stroke. So one side of her was, basically she couldn't use. And I saw the importance of what we were doing to help her stay mobile. And she didn't have to go into an assisted living facility. And that struck me as, I've got to continue doing this. There are other people out there that need our kinds of services.
It's the idea of giving something back. I tell the young people not to wait till they're 60 to do something for a stranger that makes them cry. And I see that once or twice a year.
Interacting with the volunteers, it's a source of energy for me.
That is very thrifty.
A lot of laughter.
Today's a very special day. It is our coordinator, the manager, acting manager of our wheelchair ramps, birthday.
A lot of good times, a lot of friendships that have developed from my relationships with the volunteers. And with the homeowners, our clients, it's been a very educational and a very learning time for me.
The people that we work with are just really amazing, and I feel very lucky to be able to work with them.
It's one thing to write a check and give to a nonprofit, but when you get down and do the nitty-gritty work and get muddy, get dusty from pouring concrete for the post, for the handrail, it's gratifying. And come home, sometimes have to take a nap, but it's great. It's a wonderful feeling to help others.
It's like God sent people here to help me. It's like a God sent. If there's anybody out there that really truly needs help, they need to call Project Home, that they really need some help, because they are dependable, they are honest people, and they know what they're doing, and I can't thank them enough.
One of the things I think that makes Project Home special is people.
I was just thinking of that.
We really have a wonderful culture here.
It would.
We have a special connection to volunteers, so we inspire others, and we get a lot done. We really pride ourselves on the fact that we actually make a change in the community every day.
I'm Bill Oglesby, an associate professor in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture and the instructor for the documentary class. Joining me tonight are Sienna Rowe, Alex Crespo, and Savannah Cousin, who produced the Helping Hands documentary. I like that one. That was good.
Thank you so much.
Sienna, let me start off with you and ask you, it was obvious they do, this Project Homes does so many different projects in the community. What made you choose the Renew crew and what they were doing as the topic of what you focused in on?
I think as we started learning more about everything that they do, that the Renew crew just kind of stuck out to us the most. Like everything that they're doing for the community, for these people that just aren't able to upkeep with their homes. It was just an amazing thing to see, and mostly like their volunteer aspect, how these people come out and they spend their spare time helping in these people's homes. It was just an amazing thing to see, and I just felt like that's what we wanted to show about Project Homes.
Mm-hmm. Did they feel fortunate or unfortunate that you chose them?
They were very, very welcoming. I think that's one of the best parts about making this documentary is having subjects that wanted their story to be told, and they were very helpful in facilitating us telling their story for them.
Okay. Alex, what did you find some of the major challenges were in filming this documentary?
I think the biggest challenge we faced was one of scheduling. It was tricky for the three of us especially to just find time where all of us could go out on a location together. So often we would just go in pairs or even a little bit of solo work just to make sure that we had a camera at whatever place we needed to be at that day. So it was mostly scheduling as far as a challenge goes.
I guess with something like this, you can't really just schedule it on the fly, can you? You really have to fit it in when they're doing their work.
Yeah, because they have their own schedule that they go with, and so we have to make sure that we are able to be out there when they are out there. We're just there filming.
Yeah. Savannah, let me ask you, what did you enjoy most about filming this documentary?
There were so many things, but I think what really stands out or sticks to my heart was honestly being able to meet everyone, from the individuals that work day to day to the volunteers. Everyone seemed so kind and empathetic, and they genuinely seemed like they wanted to be there, and they were happy that they were doing this work for the community. And you can tell by from the interviews, you can tell that they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, did I pick up on a little bonding going on there?
Yeah, honestly, everyone, I guess like Sienna said, everyone was so welcoming. So they helped us, they wanted us to be there. You can tell they really wanted us to be there.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's great. Well, good job.
Thank you.
I've been speaking with Robertson School students and documentary producers Sienna Rowe, Alex Crespo, and Savannah Cousins. Excellent work, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Oglesby. A new generation is making a boom in Richmond's real estate market. Virginia Business Magazine says the city's wealth of affordable housing makes it a millennial magnet.
But this trend is not unique to Richmond. The U.S. Census Bureau says 80 million millennials are settling in smaller cities around the country. In this next documentary called Why RVA, we find out why these young adults are choosing the city over the burbs.
Richmond will always have like a special place in my heart if I leave, you know. It's kind of crazy to say that because when I first came, I wasn't too crazy about it, but now I'm like, dang, it's not going to be an easy place to leave for me by any means.
We say that millennials were born between the dates of 1983 and 2001, and we use that because 1983, those who were born in 1983 graduated high school in 2001, and then we say 2001 is kind of the other end of that spectrum. So that really then encapsulates this idea of millennial.
I like Richmond because
I love Richmond because
I like Richmond because
are just generally nicer here in Richmond. The cost of living was one of the biggest things that I found that made a huge difference, and it's actually affordable to buy a house versus living 30 to 45 minutes outside of the city and having to commute.
Millennials are leaving the suburbs and major cities behind for mid-sized cities with a stronger sense of community. Places like Austin, Texas, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland, and Richmond, Virginia have become hotbeds for millennials. Richmond ranks number 2 out of the top 25 cities where millennials are moving. In 2016, National Geographic placed Virginia's River City as number 5 out of 11 great places to travel in the world. That said, Richmond has a lot to offer young people. Food, art, diversity, and niche shopping experiences attract them. Job opportunities with easy commutes are also major drawing factors.
I think so much of what has made Richmond cool, it has been organic and authentic. It's the food scene that happened kind of naturally. And then I think the same thing with the art scene. I mean, VCU has had a huge role in that, but I think it's bringing in those kinds of people to our city that create this sense of creativity and innovation and excitement, and with the murals and those sorts of things that start to create this experience and vibe that is just really exciting, and people are drawn to it.
Millennials want to live and work in the same community. The idea of living somewhere else, working here, and commuting back and forth is not attractive.
Boomers want to retire in place. They don't want to go move to Florida to play golf. They want to stay in their community. I think that millennials are going to be similarly different. I think that they really value this idea of community and wanting to be near their community. And we see things like outdoor recreation and food and art and music, and those experiences are things that people do with other people, and that's how they create their community, and I think they're going to want to be near that.
While Richmond already has natural attractive qualities, the city actively works to keep this younger generation flowing in.
Our HYPE program is for young professionals that are already here in Richmond. We consider young professionals to be age 21 to 39. And we do at least 2 to 3 events every single month. Some of those are more traditional networking events where you get to try out a new venue or a place that just opened here in Richmond, and just have a good time, try some food, try some drinks, and meet a bunch of other people.
Chamber RVA's continued outreach contributes to the growing number of 18,000 who have moved into the Richmond area. They've made a home in neighborhoods such as the Fan, the Museum District, Scott's Addition, Oregon Hill, Jackson Ward, Church Hill, and so many others.
My name is Matt Locklear. I live here in Scott's Addition.
My name is Vinny. I live in Shockoe Bottom.
My name is Mary Alice Potsalis-Avius, and I live in Carver.
Hey, I'm Chris Higgins, and I live in Church Hill.
My name is Brendan France, and I live in Oregon Hill.
My name is Amber, and I live in the Fan.
Chris Higgins came to Richmond for his undergraduate studies. He left after graduation, then found employment in the very place he graduated from, and joined the millennial population in Richmond. It's been a year, and he hasn't found a reason to leave.
I mean, I definitely would say, like, it's loving, it's open, like it's a safe place. Just like even considering like how I met a lot of the people here, just kind of like happenstance, just kind of bumping into people, having some common interests, or just sharing some experiences with them.
This is one of the top places to be outside. It's cheap to live. Not a lot of people know about it yet. The brewery scene is awesome. And so I think all those factors put together are why people are moving to Richmond.
One place in particular that's seen recent growth in the city is Scott's Addition. Nestled in between gourmet food and art stands half of Richmond's breweries. A culture created from renovated warehouses are what residents say makes this neighborhood an ideal place to live.
I mean, as far as like we can walk to all the breweries and stuff around, and I mean, plenty of restaurants, seems like a new one's opening like every week. You know, and then, you know, the museums are close by and that deal, so, and pretty close to interstate still too, so it makes it a lot more convenient for what we like.
In regards to millennials, I think most of them are buying a little bit on the outside of it. But another great option is Churchill. That place is affordable, it's in city limits, kind of the outskirts of it again.
I've talked to a lot of students across the last couple of years where they're being smarter about their city, and so with everything these days, like you get to sort of pick and choose and figure out like what options are out there and sort of build the perfect scenario. And I still think jobs and like having that income is number one, but there are a ton of other factors like cost of living and things to do and access to sports and entertainment.
For the most part, I think we're going to see that a larger percentage of this generation is going to stay in more of an urban area than other generations did.
It's a small city. You can easily get around in the city on a bike. Especially in this Churchill area, there are a lot of little restaurants and shops that you can ride to, grab coffee, grab something to drink, have some food, enjoy some time with some friends, and come back home. It's cheap.
Media and older generations have been fascinated by the movements of the millennial generation. But is the influx really a phenomenon? Are the actions just as cyclical as prior generations?
I think that millennials are still going to be a main topic of conversation because they are about to become the dominant generation in the workforce. I think that we're already starting to see people pay attention to Gen Zs, which is the next generation, trying to understand them and how they're going to be different, how they're going to impact society and the workplace and communities. It's interesting, if we look at boomers, they were a really big topic about 10, 15 years ago. They were all turning 60. People were starting to realize that they are different than how older generations were as they were aging. And so it's this whole idea that, you know, 60 is the new 60 and you can be cool when you're 60, and you know, Madonna is 60, and you know, it just looks different than what we used to think. And then that story kind of got old and people weren't really paying attention to it anymore. But now as boomers are getting even older, we're starting to see that they're going to be completely changing how the aging space is. And so there's a lot of new companies coming on board that are trying to solve problems of aging because there are going to be so many more older people, and there's a lot of opportunity to create products and experiences that are good for that aging population.
And we're back in the studio. Joining me now are the student producers of YRVA, Jeremy Jackson, Tiffany Brinkley, and Serafina Saki. Guys, good job. Let me ask you this. Why millennials? I mean, we hear a lot about them, but why did you specifically choose millennials as your topic?
I think the reason that we chose it is because you hear so much about millennials, and I feel like a lot of the coverage may be unfair or a little bit biased, so who better to do a project or a documentary about millennials than millennials themselves?
Mm-hmm. Did you have a pretty good idea what you were going to find going in?
Yes, and I think the scope was so wide enough, there was so much for us to choose from when talking about millennials. So our documentary, we decided to reference the cities that act as attractors to them.
Yeah. You talked about how Richmond was such a millennial hotspot for living. Do you think you would have done this subject if Richmond hadn't been that kind of destination?
Maybe we could have taken the opposite approach and see what they were doing wrong when looking at it, or comparing them to maybe another city that's very close.
Uh-huh. Okay. Tiffany, let me ask you, is there anything surprising in particular that you found out? I mean, you obviously did some research and you had things that you knew going in, but what about surprises?
I actually thought it was surprising that they were living in Richmond. I thought that most of the people that were here were for school, but we found out that they were actually living here, working here, and contributing to the culture and creating a community. That was fascinating to me.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. One of the things you pointed out, we were the #2 destination, I think, for millennials, and Virginia Beach was #1. So Virginia has the 2 top spots for millennials to settle. Was that surprising to you?
It was, well, it was for me because I didn't really think Richmond was that great until we started talking to people, and then we realized that there's actually a community here. You just kind of have to know about it and live here to find out about it.
Yeah, come on, you know Richmond's great. Serafina, let me ask you, what was harder for you, getting started, or once you got started, keeping the momentum going?
I think it was keeping it going because that's when we had to decide what to put in there, what not to put in there, which angle we're going for and whatnot. So I think keeping it going was a bit harder for us.
Did you find that times you had to redirect, you know, when you were in the middle of it, you know, we got to go in this direction, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we did. I mean, you know, they came together. We all did come together to, you know, make it work. So I think it was, keeping it going was a bit hard for us.
Okay. All right, well, thanks. We've been talking with the documentary students and producers, Jeremy Jackson, Tiffany Bringley, and Serafina Saki. Interesting topic, guys.
Well, that does it for this edition of VCU In Depth. Thanks for joining us. I'm Emily McNamara.
And I'm Devin Eiffel. For all of us at VCU In Depth, good night.